On a cool night in March 1964, a 28-year-old woman named Kitty Genovese was walking home in Queens, New York. What happened next would shake the city to its core, shatter its sense of community, and give birth to one of the most chilling concepts in modern psychology. This is the story of Kitty Genovese. Let's trace the events of that night. Kitty Genovese parked her car and began the walk to her apartment door. A man named Winston Mosley spotted her, grabbed a knife, and attacked. Kitty screamed, "Oh my God, he stabbed me. Please help me." Lights flickered on in the surrounding apartment buildings. A man shouted from a window, "Leave that girl alone." The attack paused. Mosley panicked and ran. Kitty staggered to the rear of the building, injured but alive. If someone had called the police right then, she would have survived. But the calls didn't come. After a few minutes, Mosley returned. He found Kitty, now vulnerable and mostly hidden from street view, and attacked her again, in a final, fatal assault that lasted nearly 20 minutes more. The next day, the New York Times published the shocking headline, "37 who saw murder didn't call the police." Note, the number later settled on 38, but the initial explosive story was the same. The number of witnesses was sensationalized, but the core fact remained. A significant number of people saw or heard a woman being murdered and did nothing. The public was horrified. Were we a nation of moral monsters? Was this the death of social responsibility? The incident sparked a massive debate, pulling two young psychologists into the spotlight, Bibb Latané and John Darley. They rejected the idea that the witnesses were simply evil. They hypothesized that something much more subtle, a deeply ingrained psychological reflex, was to blame. They had to test it, and the results would be staggering. What Latané and Darley discovered wasn't a moral failure, but a failure of perception. They termed the core phenomenon the bystander effect. They ran experiments where participants were put in a room, either alone or in groups. Smoke was then pumped into the room. When participants were alone, over 75% immediately reported the smoke. But when they were in a group of 3, only 10% reported the smoke. Why? Two critical psychological mechanisms were at play. Mechanism 1, diffusion of responsibility. This is the main culprit. When you are alone, all the responsibility for action rests on you. When you are in a group, that responsibility is diffused across every person. You think, someone else has probably already called the police, or surely one of those 37 other people is handling it. The presence of others literally makes you feel less accountable. Mechanism 2, pluralistic ignorance. This is the silent killer. In an ambiguous situation, we look to the reactions of others to inform our own. Nobody wants to look foolish. If you see smoke, but everyone around you is calmly doing their work, you think, well, maybe it's not an emergency. Maybe I'm overreacting. Each individual is privately concerned, but publicly calm, and that public calmness convinces everyone else that there is no emergency. The witnesses in Queens were likely trapped in this dual psychological snare. The screams were ambiguous, maybe just a domestic dispute, and the fact that they saw dozens of other lights on, with no sound of police sirens, signaled to them, no one else is doing anything, so it must not be a real emergency. This psychological law shows the dark truth. The greater the crowd, the weaker the individual's impulse to act. It is not a lack of morality, but a fatal misreading of the room that seals the fate of the victim. This law is not about morality, it's about psychological inertia. So, how do we use this knowledge to ensure we never become a bystander? And how do we cut through the inertia in a real crisis? Rule 1. Recognize and name the effect. The first step is simple awareness. When you encounter a potential emergency, a car accident, someone collapsing in a public place, you must mentally acknowledge the bystander effect is now active. Your conscious awareness is your shield against the subconscious drift toward inaction. Rule 2. Eliminate the diffusion of responsibility. If you are the victim, or if you are the one trying to help, you must bypass the crowd and designate a single person. Do not just yell, "Someone call 911." Look directly at a specific individual, the person in the blue shirt, the woman with the red hat, and say, "You," in the blue jacket. Call 911 immediately and tell them a man is having a heart attack. Then come back and tell me you did it. This is the crucial move. You have given them a specific task, broken the spell of ambiguity, and assigned 100% of the responsibility to them, forcing them out of the diffused group. Rule 3. Be the first mover to counter pluralistic ignorance. If you are concerned, you must be the one to define the situation as an emergency. Your movement, your sudden change in demeanor, your action, however small, is the first domino. When the surrounding crowd sees one person break the pattern, their minds register the situation as a legitimate crisis. This gives them the psychological permission to act, effectively shutting down the logic of pluralistic ignorance. You give the rest of the group the courage to care. The lesson of Kitty Genovese is not that people are monsters, but that we are slaves to social pressure. Knowing the law of the bystander effect gives you the power to break it. You can be the one person who changes the outcome. So, have you ever seen the bystander effect play out, or been the one to step up and take action? Share your story in the comments below. And if you want to master the hidden laws of human behavior, join the community. Hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell for Psychly, where we believe in more psychology, less nonsense. Until next time, be the one who makes the call.